If you are an adult and you are not doing it because of the children, or you're not doing it because of you're chasing a girl and you still dress up for Halloween, it's a little bit weird, man. I'm on team no dress up for Halloween. It's a little bit odd.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. DFS OGs back in the house talking week 9, combining, I don't know, about 25, 30 years of DFS experience here between the three of us. So we'll break everything down for you. We'll talk Thursday night. We'll hit the Monday night game at the end. And, of course, we'll hit all the games between. You're hearing this the day after Halloween, but we're recording on Halloween. So hope everybody had a safe, fun Halloween out there. Chop, what's the plan today for you and the kids? And when they get candy, do you give them the old dad tax like I do? Your kids get mad when I start digging in their bag. Like, hey, man, I'm out here in the elements walking you around. I got to get some of that candy.
Well, listen, there's a lot that goes into it, all right? So, first of all, yeah, we'll take them out around the neighborhood, let them grab some candy, bring it back home. I'll check it all out. I'll grab the pieces I really like because I'm really the chocolate guy. You know, give me some Reese's Pieces or some Buttercups or something that. I'm good with that. Then I'll let them pick out a couple pieces, but they're not going to take the whole thing and just eat it throughout the week. I'm not down for that because pretty much most candy is just straight up garbage anyway. So I let them pick their favorite stuff. Then I take the rest of it, and usually there's a big old container at their school for you can ship any unused candy that hadn't been opened yet. Put it in there, and they send it to the troops anyway. So that's a pretty good place to put it, and they don't need it, and let the troops have it. So that's pretty much how that goes.
Yeah, and I was stationed over there way back in the day, but it was great getting those boxes from home. So a little bit of candy over there helps make somebody's day. We got some dentists here too that'll collect it, give the kids money and other stuff for where they bring in the candy. So same way, let them have a little bit. They don't need the whole bag. Derek, I know you're a new dad, not totally new, but have you been out trick-or-treating yet?
Not yet. Little man just turned 2, so we're going to take him out. Probably just do the circle and then come back. And, yeah, me and the wife like to have fun on Halloween, so we'll enjoy a few beverages and watch a baseball game.
There you go. Yeah, we're on to Game 6. So, Week 9, guys. We'll hit on Week 8, before we move on to Week 9. So, a few trades we got to talk about. We'll analyze them more as we get to the teams. We had Jimmy Garoppolo traded to San Francisco. We had Jay Ajayi going to Philadelphia for a fourth-round pick, which seemed kind of crazy. And then breaking just now as we started recording, Kelvin Benjamin was traded to Buffalo, who we know desperately need wide receivers. So, again, we'll break those down when we get to those teams. We'll see if there's any instant impact on both sides, you know, whether guys got traded, if there's an impact there, who takes over the spot. So let's start with our pour one out, Derek. So who in Week 8 was not good to your lineups?
Oh, man. Let's see. Pretty much all my receivers. I mean, I had Antonio Brown over on FanDuel. Yeah, I mean, pretty much all of them. But I'll go with Antonio Brown. Really needed just a decent game from him to end up cashing in most of my lineups on FanDuel. Didn't get it. Had Juju Smith-Schuster just go off. And so, yeah, I'll pour one out for Antonio.
All right, Chop, who you got for your pour one out for Week 8?
Oh, this is an easy one for me, man. You got to give it to old Gimpy Jordan Reed. My gosh, man. He gets you, he sucks you in with a good game. You think it's time, great matchup and everything. Then all of a sudden, second quarter leaves with a hamstring, and he hamstrings your lineups and everything. It's just terrible. So yeah, Jordan Reed. And what really pours the salt in the wound is it very easily could have been a Jack Doyle in your lineup, and that would have made all the difference in the world.
Absolutely. So first I'm going to pour one out for Zach Miller. I mean, horrible injury there, so hopefully he recovers and everything. I mean, they were talking, I haven't seen any updates that the guy might lose his leg. So hopefully that he recovers, he heals up. But my pour one out as far as football goes, Doug Baldwin. I mean, I was all over Russell Wilson, Seattle. Unfortunately not Paul Richardson, Tyler Lockett, or it could have been a huge day for your boy Doug Baldwin. Did okay, but if he was the guy catching those touchdowns, was in the running for that $1 million over on DraftKings. So, Doug Baldwin, my pouring out. And Chop, I think you've had him in there a few times. So, he's killing this pod a few times over the season. All right, let's start. Let's get into our Week 9 analysis here. Let's start Thursday night. We got Buffalo. We got the Jets. We just talked about the trade there. So, Kelvin Benjamin coming over. I don't think you're going to get any instant impact here, a one-day turnaround. So I don't even think he'll play. We'll see. You'll have to keep an eye out on that. But, Chop, what do you got in this one? Two teams, Buffalo playing really well. The Jets kind of going in streaks. Lose a few, win a few in a row. Now they've lost a couple in a row. Can they rebound at home here against Buffalo?
Assuming that you still have those injuries in the Buffalo secondary, I don't mind Josh McCown and pairing him with one of his wide receivers, Anderson or Curse. I think Anderson's probably generally the better player. And then you've got, the renaissance of Austin Safari and Jenkins. So I think any of those guys are in play. But as far as Buffalo, to be honest, I'm not touching it. Tyrod, McCoy, they're not as good on the road. They got to travel to New York here. And so it's just – and the receivers, I'm almost certain Kelvin won't come in and do anything this week. I doubt he suits up or anything. So he's still straddled with terrible wide receivers down there. So I'm probably a full fade on Buffalo, but I do like the passing game on the Jets.
So if you're playing the slate, is it a fade for you? Will you slide some Jets in that lineup or just roll with the main slate?
I don't mind Robbie Anderson. That's a heck of a price on DraftKings. It just doesn't go up. It's still sitting at 4.2. So I don't mind Robbie Anderson. Otherwise, yeah, it probably would be. The rest of it would be a fade.
All right, Derek, Thursday Night Football. So same question. How do you attack in the slate? Are you playing the slate? Are you avoiding the game? Or you got any diamonds in the rough here, we'll say, in this AFC East battle?
Yeah, this is one of those games that I don't feel great about. The total is actually a little higher than I expected it to be. 43 seems kind of high for these two offenses. I don't mind the Jets passing game. I think I'm probably just going to wait until Sunday to join my contest. But I like the McCown play if you're looking for a quarterback in this one. Don't mind pairing him up with Robbie Anderson. Seems like he's the go-to guy in this offense. Curse has been catching the touchdowns, but I prefer Robbie Anderson over him. ASJ, don't mind him. Getting a little expensive for him over on DraftKings at 49. But we know the receptions are going to be there, and he's been a red zone threat all year. As far as LaShawn McCoy, this is a week where we don't have a lot of workhorse running backs. We know Zeke's suspended. We got Kareem Hunt facing the Cowboys on the road. Gurley's on the road. McCoy's on the road. So I don't hate him. Jets aren't great against the run. They're ranked 26th in DVOA against the pass. So I don't mind McCoy. Anytime we can get a workhorse under 9K, I'll have at least some interest.
Yeah, I agree with you on McCoy. And the passing game chopping the Jets, I'm with you there as well. McCown getting it done. Anderson's still too cheap. And ASJ, a top 5 tight end, the way he's playing. So those are my main plays out of this game. All right, let's go to the main slate. We got 10 games this week on the main slate. No London game to deal with. So let's get started with Atlanta, Carolina. We just talked about Benjamin being shipped out, Derek. So how does that affect this Carolina passing game? Funchess, we know, has been pretty solid this season. McCaffrey on pace to catch over 100 passes this season. Is it those two? Does anybody else step up? And how about Atlanta? Went into New York, got it done, got the win they needed. Maybe it wasn't pretty. How do they attack this Carolina defense?
Yeah, so it sounds like Greg Olson's going to end up testing his foot out this week. And if all goes well, he's going to return to practice. I'm not sure if he's eligible to play this week, but if so, that's going to be a big boost. Maybe that's why they decided to get rid of Benjamin when they did. But yeah, I like the matchup. I think it's a good bounce back spot for Cam Newton. Really struggled last week in the wind and a pretty good matchup against the Buccaneers, but I think he bounces back here at home. Falcons are 25th in DVOA against the pass. I think you can hook him up with McCaffrey. He did play 58% of the snaps last week, which was one of his lowest of the season. They did work Cameron Artis-Payne in quite a bit, which wasn't exactly ideal. And if the Panthers are able to build a lead, they're actually favored here. So if they build a lead, we could see more Jonathan Stewart. So I don't love McCaffrey, but he's always fine in tournaments, especially on DraftKings. I think Funchess is going to be a great value. I think a lot of people are going to look his way. Falcons have not been good at stopping receivers this year. So 5,400, I think he's going to be one of the more popular plays of the week. On the other side of the ball, they just can't get the ball to Julio Jones. I don't get it. Only 6 targets last week. We've maybe thought, after he had that big game against the Patriots, that they were going to throw him the ball a little bit more. But until it happens, he's just such a tough buy right now. He's only 7,800, which is probably the cheapest he's been in years, but I just don't trust him right now. As far as the running backs go, we saw Coleman outproduce Freeman, so that's kind of a sticky situation right now. We know Matt Ryan's a lot better at home than he is on the road. So for me, the Falcons are kind of a stay away against a tough Panthers defense.
Yeah, as crazy as it sounds, I think I'm with you. I mean, the total a lot lower than I thought it would be, just 43.5 as of now. I think that's pre-Benjamin trade, so that may change some more. Freeman dealing with an injury as well, dealing with a shoulder injury. So Tevin Coleman at 4,700 could be in play this week. So, Chop, what do you got here? Atlanta, Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, Derek hit on the Matt Ryan not being as good on the road, so that does scare me a little bit. Julio had a big game. I mean, that big, 300-yard game against Carolina last year, but he came at home and not on the road. And I'm just generally, I don't know what's going on there with Julio. I mean, I'd say that it was Matt Ryan or it was somebody else's fault on the field, but Matt Ryan's getting the ball to Sanu for like the last 2 weeks, 12 catches, 140 yards and a touchdown. So why isn't some of that going to Sanu? Why isn't some of that going to Julio? I don't know. So it's not an easy matchup on the road. I don't know if I can play Julio again. Price is drifting down though, so I'm just not sure if I'm sold on any of these Atlanta guys. And on the flip side, Devin Funchess, I'll buy it when I see it. I want to see it first. I don't think the receivers are the people with the problem in this offense. I think it's Cam Newton and his inconsistency. So until he can figure out a way to get the ball downfield a little bit and not just those little 5-yard passes to McCaffrey, and I'm not sure I'm going to be all in on any wide receiver. So Atlanta, I mean, if they lock up Funchess, the only viable wide receiver now with their shutdown cornerback, then that may make life a little tough. It may be another McCaffrey day, but it's just not a very exciting game for me on the road for Atlanta like this. If I'm being honest, if it was in the dome, I may have a lot more interest in both of these teams, but on the road, not so much.
So, do you guys think we see more of maybe a Curtis Samuel, Russell Shepard? Do you see anybody really stepping up there? Your boy Dixon, Chop, maybe he steps up. Any guys that you're interested there with Kelvin Benjamin being shipped out?
For me, Curtis Samuel was a guy that they did look at quite a bit last week, and I know he's got some potential. So he may be the guy. They may have a plan up their sleeve to convert this guy to a full-time wide receiver. I know he was a hybrid in college, so maybe he's a full-time guy now, and maybe he ends up taking over a lot of duties in the passing game. That's a possibility. He's a real playmaker, so I wouldn't put it past him. They got to have something up their sleeve. Right. Trading away their number one wide receiver like that in mid-season for really, I don't know what the reason is. It wasn't a great return on that investment. So I don't know, man. They got to have something up there. Maybe it is Samuel.
Yeah, and I don't think Olsen can come back till after next week. I'm not totally sure. Yeah, it's just following their Week 11 bye, so we're still a few weeks away from seeing Greg Olsen, it sounds like. So Samuel's the guy to me. 3,100. We know the upside. You watch him at Ohio State. The guy's electric. Hasn't done a whole lot, but he's a guy I may sprinkle in the GPP exposure. All right, next game, Chop. We got Indy and Houston. Man, Deshaun Watson just continues to get it done. That game was fun to watch, just back and forth. Both quarterbacks putting their teams on their back. Now the highest priced quarterback on DraftKings, and it's not even close. It's an $800 gap between him and Russell Wilson this week. Huge favorites here. Huge total against an awful Indy defense. How are we playing Deshaun Watson? Cash games, GPPs, and hit on the rest of the game, of course, Chuck.
So I'll start off with Indianapolis. That's pretty easy these days. It's I think you could play Jack Doyle again. He's fine. He seems to be the big target there. Other than that, I don't think anybody else is viable. A total GPP flyer is a guy like Marlon Mack, but that's you got to have some $20 bills to burn if you want to do that. And as far as like Hilton would be the only receiver, but obviously Brissett just not as good as Andrew Luck, and he just doesn't get the ball as often to Hilton as he should. So I don't even know how much you could play him here. I mean, it's rough to go Indianapolis at all outside of Jack Doyle. So on to Houston. While I like these guys and I think they're in a great spot this week, and I'm sure they're going to be fine. Yeah, I probably won't have any of them in my lineup. Maybe Lamar Miller, maybe, but I wouldn't pay 8.1 for Drew Brees at home or Tom Brady at home, so I'm not going to do it for Deshaun Watson in a possible blowout. And same thing goes for Hopkins, 9.2K. I know he's a great wide receiver, but I'm not. It's hard enough for me to pay 9.2 for Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown's got to be in a really good spot for me to go and pay that price. So I'm not going to pay it for Hopkins in a 2-touchdown spread. So while I think they're fine and they could be, and Will Fuller at 7K, that's really up there. So while I think they're fine and they could perform well and get you some points, they're not going to be on my roster because of the price tags.
Yeah, and kudos to DraftKings for pricing them up. If they left them where they were, they only bumped them up a little bit in this matchup, everybody will have them. At least now you got to think about it. So, Derek, agree or disagree with Chop? He doesn't sound too interested at these price points on the Houston guys.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think I'm going to have some exposure. I think you have to in tournaments. Full fade is really scary, especially with an implied total of 31. And just how well this offense has been rolling the last few weeks. So I'll have some Watson and Hopkins in tournaments. They're not going to be core plays for me. I do think Lamar Miller makes some sense here. And then, but I mean, if the game gets out of hand, I think Dante Foreman's going to come in and steal some snaps from him. So yeah, I mean, Will Fuller, no way I'm paying $7K for a guy that's has like 13 receptions on the year, something like 7 or 8 touchdowns. That's just not going to be sustainable over the long run. Who knows? He could catch another one, but I'm not banking on it for $7K on DraftKings. On the other side of the ball, Marlon Mack is my favorite play here. He's out-snapped Frank Gore each of the last 2 weeks in a game where they're going to be trailing a bunch. I don't really think they need Gore out there very long. Mack has 11 targets the last 2 weeks. So at 4,100, I think he's a pretty good buy. I think we could see him get 15 touches maybe and 6 or 7 targets. So I don't hate Mack on the Colts side.
Yeah, he's a guy that can take it to the house from anywhere. So interesting. The pricing, again, good job by DK on that. But that spread makes it scary, especially in cash games. Tournaments, anything goes. Cash games going to be tough to roll those guys out at that price point. Next game for us, guys, Cincinnati and Jacksonville. This is a very intriguing game. There's not a lot of fantasy implications here, I don't think. But as a football fan, should be a fun game. So, Derek, am I wrong? Is there more here than meets the eye with Bengals-Jaguars?
Definitely not on the Bengals side of the ball. The Jaguars have been interesting. They either blow teams out and dominate on the ground and on defense, or they get blown out. So for me, I think more likely that they win this game at home. If that's the case, I think Leonard Fournette's going to be in play. Bengals' run defense has been good. But Fournette's had 3 weeks of rest now. He didn't play before the bye, so he should be good to go for this one. We've seen him do work in the passing game as well as, be the main goal line guy. And he's capable of getting 30 touches any week. They don't want Bortles to throw the ball. It sounds like D.D. Westbrook is going to practice. He might step in and be the best receiver that the Jaguars have. He was awesome in the preseason, so I'm excited to see him get back on the field. And, yeah, no Bengals for me. I know Joe Mixon played 62% of the snaps, but he did lose a fumble towards the end of the game. We know Marvin Lewis loves to just mess around with his rookies, and after that fumble, I just don't trust him.
I'm going to bust out my third and wrong here because I had high expectations for A.J. Green. He found the end zone and salvaged somewhat of the day, but 3 for 27, Chop, against the Colts? I mean, this was supposed to be a blow-up spot for A.J. Green. What the hell happened?
Yeah, I mean, apparently a lot of people were wrong about that one, so don't feel so bad.
Yeah. I was there.
I guess. So, yeah. All right, Chop, what do you got? Bengals, Jaguars.
I'll start off with Cincy. I don't mind Joe Mixon. I know there's always a possibility that his playing time could get reduced, but I think they see the light and the fact that they need to get him the ball to win games. And this is the only way you're really going to beat Jacksonville this week is by getting him the ball out of the backfield, either through the air or on the ground. You're definitely not going to win against Jacksonville with Andy Dalton on the road against this secondary. So I think it's a good Joe Mixon spot here. For Jacksonville, it's this a similar outlook. I don't really feel like Bortles is good enough to. I mean, you could take a chance on Marquise Lee, but that's about it. But Fournette, yeah, man, here he comes. I think he's going to be healthy. I think he has plenty of rest now, and they're at home. They're going to feed him, and 8.4 is a big salary, but he's going to get a lot of work, so I think he could very well pay that off. And he's got, like, the good thing about Fournette that he's shown a home run potential. All it takes is one run, and then the rest of your day is a free roll. If whatever else he gets on top of that. So I do enjoy that about Fournette, and I like the 2 running backs, so that's where I'll stay on this game.
And he's still got the Q next to his name, so we know if that stays there throughout the week, that just lowers ownership. People are afraid to roster him, to make the changes, so keep an eye on that. But I like the Fournette call here in this one. Next game, guys, Tampa Bay and New Orleans. We got the Buccaneers going in to the Big Easy, Jameis Winston. Sounds like he hurt his shoulder again, Chop. Is that something you're worried about here? Because this could be a potential shootout. A lot of fantasy goodness in this one.
Very worried because, I mean, he just didn't look good last week in a game that we all thought was going to be a shootout against Carolina. And it didn't work out for him. I don't even think he threw for one touchdown. And he barely got Mike Evans involved late in the game, and it wasn't enough to justify that price tag. So I'm real worried about Jameis Winston and the shoulder. So I actually, looking at it, I don't mind Mike Evans again. Take a shot on him. He's cheap enough. But Doug Martin could be in a good spot here. You know, a real weakness on New Orleans is that run defense. And even though Chicago Bears don't pass at all, Jordan Howard still lit them up pretty good. And he should have got in the end zone and just flat out dropped some chances at touchdowns. But, you know, Doug Martin's been looking really good since his return. So I wouldn't doubt Doug Martin having a big game here, especially if Winston's shoulder's hurt and Mike Evans gets the Lattimore treatment. You never know. So maybe it's a Doug Martin game. And on the flip side, New Orleans at home against a weak defense, I'm not even going to try to justify or pick out one or two guys. You could play any of these guys and be perfectly fine with it. I'm going to take a bigger chance this week on Alvin Kamara and hope that Mark Ingram worked himself back in the doghouse with 2 big fumbles last week.
Yeah, Kamara's price is climbing. They're getting closer in price, 76, 63 in those two. And I like the Doug Martin call. Getting a lot of work. Hasn't been very efficient, but this could be a matchup for him, especially if they want to take it easy on Jameis' shoulder. All right, Derek, what do you got? Buccaneers and Saints.
Yeah, I think Winston's at least an interesting GPP play. 5,800 for him in a potential shootout is really interesting. Shoulder injury scares me a little bit, but he was able to stay in the game. And, he has got a pretty good track record against the Saints. I know the Saints' defense has been better this year, but, I mean, this game still has a 50 total. They're going to be throwing the ball. They're going to be playing from behind. So I mean, I think if his status was in doubt at all, that we wouldn't have a line in this game. And it's already set at 7, so I'm pretty confident that Winston's going to be out there. I like pairing him up with Mike Evans or Deshaun Jackson. If Evans gets the Lattimore treatment, certainly fine going to Deshaun. I was going to be all over him last week until, reports of the wind were up to 15 to 20 miles per hour last week. So kind of got off of the passing game in general, and glad I did. Chop makes a great point about the running game of the Saints, 29th in DVOA against the run this year. So I definitely like Martin. His snaps are trending upward. He ended up playing 43 in Week 7 and then 39 in Week 8. It's his backfield now, so I like Doug Martin there. On the Saints side of the ball, could this finally be the week the Breeze gets going? The Buccaneers ranked dead last in pass DVOA. Their corners are guys off the street and guys that can't play football. So, maybe this is the spot for Breeze and Michael Thomas to get going. I'm fine with the running backs, but, 7,600 and 6,300 for guys that are splitting time is just a little pricey for me. I could see one or two of them, or one or two rushing touchdowns here, but I'm not sure where it's going to come from. So for me, I'm going to target the passing game. I like Breeze and Thomas quite a bit.
Yeah, it's time for Breeze. 28 attempts in that last game at home, no touchdowns, almost hit the 300-yard bonus. And then the home game before that against Detroit, they put up 52. He only throws the ball 30 times, doesn't even get to 200 yards. So it is time. Everyone's still focused on that running game. They're running a lot through Ingram, through Kamara. But like you guys said, Tampa Bay's pass D, horrific. So this could definitely be a spot where a lot of people hesitate on the passing game. I think it's a good week to load up. Next game for us, we got Todd Gurley and the Rams, Derek, heading to the Giants. So are you on board with Todd Gurley yet? We're at Halloween. Are you buying in, or are you still on the other side of the fence here for me and Chop?
No, yeah, I'm buying in on Gurley. I think I've played him.
All right, Chop, we did it.
I've played him a couple times, and I think they've been the weeks that he struggled. The Seattle game. I remember that.
Maybe go back to the other side of the fence then. So we're going to see if you're going to play him or not, and then I'll know to play him or avoid him.
But yeah, the thing with Gurley for me is I like to see him involved in the passing game. He only got 4 targets against the Seahawks and then only 1 against the Jaguars. So it was really nice to see them, give him the ball out of the backfield against the Cardinals. He had 8 targets, ended up with 48 receiving yards. He's one of the few guys that we can count on to see 25-plus touches a game. Doesn't really matter the game flow. He's going to be involved either way. So I love him here, 8,100. If you're paying up a running back, it's going to be a tough choice for me between Fournette and Gurley. As far as the passing game, it sounds like Janoris Jenkins has been suspended, so that's kind of a bum to Goff and Sammy Watkins if you want to look there in tournaments. I'm not really a big believer in Goff on the road yet, but I don't mind taking a shot on Watkins or on Robert Woods if you need a cheap receiver. On the Giants side, it's ugly. It's really ugly. I don't really know. I don't trust the running backs. Darkwood, Gallman. Sounds like Paul Perkins is going to be back. I think Sterling Shepard's probably the play here. He should be healthy following the bye. And Evan Ingram's probably going to get a bunch of targets as well. But $5,600 for him just seems a little too much for me.
Yeah, he got a pretty big high price hike there. So it's tough to roll the dice on Evan Ingram. I love the targets there, but with Shepard coming back, maybe he eats into some of that. So, Chop, Rams, Giants, what do you got?
Yeah, I would say that generally speaking, Sterling Shepard, I like Evan Ingram too. 56, I don't like to pay that kind of price for my tight end, but I do like him, but I'm on the fence about that one. So I think I'll stick to some Sterling Shepard this week, assuming he looks healthy. And that's about it for the Giants side. I don't want the running game, don't want Eli Manning. It's a mess. On the other side, Derek is right about Jared Goff. I don't trust him. Therefore, even though Jenkins is suspended, I don't trust Sammy Watkins. I'd love to be able to play Sammy, but I think Goff's been vastly overrated here this year. He was bad last year. I don't think he's improved all that much. They just have a hell of a running back that they're turning to now, and it's making him look really good. So that's the guy I would turn to again. Love targeting running backs that have had extra rest during the season like this. And this is it. Todd Gurley, fire him up. 8.1 is a very reasonable price for probably a top 2 or 3 running back in all of football this year. Even if he doesn't get it on the ground, he's going to get it in the air. He's this year's David Johnson, so fire him up.
Yeah, that Giants defense is struggling. They're not as elite as we thought they were coming into the season, the way they looked last season. So don't be afraid of that. Total kind of low, but I still think it's a good spot for Todd Gurley. All right, next game for us, Chop. We got Denver. Just looks lost out there. Took the L in Kansas City. Going to Philadelphia. DraftKings already got Jay Ajayi on the Eagles and dangling that carrot. $5,700 is a great price, but there's one thing Denver's done well. It's stopped the run. So quick turnaround. Jay Ajayi, does he make any impact here, and are you interested at that cheap $5,700 price point?
No, I'm going to pass on it. First of all, Denver is playing some of the best run defense in the NFL this year, so that's a big red flag. But coming in right away like this, I find it hard to believe that he's all of a sudden going to be some kind of a workhorse. At least this first game or two, they probably ease him in and still got LeGarrette Blount and like 3 other guys that they're going to feed a little bit. So probably not too interested in the running game here, but I don't mind taking a shot on Carson Wentz to Zach Ertz, just like we saw on Monday Night Football, tight end. Denver still struggles against the tight end. Kelsey killed him on Monday night. I think Zach Ertz is a guy who's going to kill Denver this week, so I would not be scared. Look at Carson Wentz went from 7.2, and should we play him or should we not play him at that price, all the way down to 6.1 because of Denver. Well, he doesn't have just wide receivers he throws to. He has a lot of different people he throws to, including Zach Ertz. So I would like Carson Wentz. I like Zach Ertz. And on the other side, I'm going to break out my third and wrong. I got to do it. I really thought that when Emmanuel Sanders went down with injury, I was licking my chops like, oh, here comes Demarius. We're going to get Demarius now. And you look up 2 games later, and he's got 75 total yards in 2 games. And a whole bunch of my dollar bills went with him. I don't know, man. I was wrong. I thought that Simeon could be a half-assed quarterback and get him the ball a little bit, but I was wrong. He's terrible, so it's bringing Demarius down too. So that's unfortunate. And but in this game, you never know when it's going to turn around. So this is a good secondary for it to turn around to. Simeon's such a bad quarterback, right? Oh, and in fact, I think they may even pull the trigger on Brock Osweiler, which would be even worse, I think. So, man, this is just bad. Denver, man. John Elway, man, I'm gonna pour one out for John Elway, bro, because you got a lot of, he got a lot of props for when he won the Super Bowl and some of the good decisions he made. But quarterback has been his quarterback stuff has been some of the worst front office decisions I've seen in a long time. So I don't know what to do with them. I would fire up Demarius again, take a shot on it, but the other guys don't appeal to me on this team.
Yeah, what a fall from grace for this Denver team. I mean, they just look awful. I mean, even Jamal Charles looked great on that first run, the next run he fumbles. It's just a comedy of errors. So, yeah, I think it will be Osweiler sooner than later. They're saying Paxton Lynch isn't in the mix here. So how much more they need to see of Trevor Siemian, and not that Osweiler's a better option, but they need to be quarterback shopping. I'm surprised they weren't looking at anybody at the deadline here, but going into the offseason got to be one of their priorities. So, Derek, as far as this week, going into Philadelphia, Philly's on a roll, pick up another running back. Any interest in Ajayi? I am with Chop 100%. Love Wentz. Absolutely love Zach Ertz this week against Denver. So your take on Broncos-Eagles.
Yeah, it's got to be tough to be a Broncos fan right now. They're wasting an elite defense and, two great wideouts on their quarterbacks. It's just terrible. Osweiler, yeah, I don't know what to do. I think the Eagles, no matter what, their defense is going to be in play and probably the top play of the week. I'm not looking at the receivers. I just don't trust the Broncos quarterbacks to get them the ball. So even if Sanders is out again, I'll still be out on Thomas and Fowler. On the Eagles side of the ball, there's only one guy that I'm looking at. Last week after the pod, I wrote down that I need to play Travis Kelce in the Thursday to Monday slate. Then, of course, when I was making my lineup on Sunday morning, I kind of forgot about that game and didn't put him in there. So, yeah, the Broncos, terrible against tight ends. Good against receivers, good against the run. So, yeah, pretty much just Zach Ertz for me. I don't mind the Wentz call. 6,100 is awfully cheap for him. But it's more Ertz for me.
All right, let's move on. Not a pretty game here, guys. Baltimore and Tennessee. So, Baltimore actually did look good against Miami. They're traveling to Tennessee, coming off that dud in Cleveland. So, did they bounce back, Derek? Baltimore sounds like Flacco's ready to go here. We're still a few weeks away from Danny Woodhead. He's practicing, should be back soon, but not back here. So Collins was the story for Baltimore last time out. Does he continue here against this Titans run D?
Yeah, I want no part of the running backs here. Collins did see a season high 32 snaps last week, which was promising, and he has looked good in the run, but I just don't trust them. If they get down, it's going to be Javorius Allen once again, so I'm kind of avoiding that situation for now. Jeremy Maclin of 4K is at least a little bit interesting. We saw him catch that touchdown on Thursday night, so Flacco's good to go. I don't mind that if you need a value play. The rest of the receivers kind of out for me. On the Titans side of the ball, DeMarco Murray said he heard rumblings that he could be traded, so maybe ship him back to Dallas where he dominated a couple years ago. Don't mind that. But if nothing happens, then I'll be avoiding both running backs. They're just splitting time and work, and they're both 5K, 5,400 on DraftKings. It's just hard to trust either one right now. Mariota, maybe he'll look a lot better after the bye. He was kind of struggling a little bit, wasn't really moving outside of the pocket. So if he's healthy, I think he's interesting at 6K. He's got a lot of talent that he can throw the ball to. Rashard Matthews, hopefully Corey Davis is back. Eric, our boy Decker, coming off of that 0. Maybe he can bounce back a little bit. I don't mind the matchup for the Titans passing game, but yeah, I don't know. 24 team total has me interested, but I'm probably not going to be looking at them outside of tournaments.
I'm still hurting from that Eric Decker 0. It's still stinging 2 weeks later. So, Chop, Ravens, Titans, anything of note here for you for DFS?
Ravens, nothing I would possibly want in this game. It's just a bad offense, and I don't want any part of it. Tennessee, I would love to have been able to target DeMarco Murray coming off of a bye week, but not against Baltimore's defensive line, which is healthy now finally for the second time in a few weeks. But anyway, DeMarco's off the board because the D-line looking a lot better now. Mariota, I think, actually has a chance to do some good. He's got all the weapons in the world now. Corey Davis is coming back. Tywan Taylor looked good, and then he's got his two big boys, Rashard and Eric Decker. So I'm sure they can avoid some of the bad coverage, and he's going to get it to somebody. I think he has a fine game. Plus, he's had some time to rest his hamstring. I'm sure he's going to run a little bit. I think he makes for a good quarterback this week, a possible top 5 guy. So Mariota's my main guy here. Just if you're trying to pair him with somebody in tournaments, good luck. I mean, that's a toss-up.
Yeah, it's tough to pick a receiver for him. So one of those guys that you maybe not have to pair him up, run him out there naked. But not a lot of interest here. I think Mariota could go fly under the radar. But all in all, this game does not look too appealing. Let's move to another game. Another one kind of ugly here, Arizona and San Francisco. So, Chop, you got Jimmy Garoppolo coming in. I don't see him under San Francisco on DraftKings, so we'll see if they make that change or not. But Arizona coming into town, we know they don't have Carson Palmer, so the Drew Stanton show gets off here. We could see C.J. Beathard against Drew Stanton, and that's how you know we're in Week 9 when you get a matchup like that. I don't know if they'll have Garoppolo ready to go, but one news note here, David Johnson comes out that he may not be returning this season. I don't think it makes any sense to bring this guy back if you're not going to win any games. So Bruce Arians did come out and say that today. So Arizona, 49ers, Chop, anything here in this game?
One guy in this whole game that appeals to me, that's Adrian Peterson. I'll take it. I'll give him one last shot. This is a good matchup for him. And the fact is that Drew Stanton's a terrible quarterback for the NFL. He's going to bring his wide receivers down with him, similar to Trevor Siemian. So Adrian Peterson is the only shot they got at offense. If he can't get it done, then they'll be terrible, and I wouldn't doubt that happens, but I'll give a shot to Peterson. And on the other side, I don't want any part of the San Francisco offense, assuming C.J. Beathard is under center again this week, which I would think that they're not just going to bring in Garoppolo and start him right away. I mean, I would think it takes a little more time than that to get a playbook down, but I'm not. But if it's Beathard, I don't want any part of these wide receivers. He's just not good. I'm sorry. Big T44, that's your boy from college, but, man, he's not good in the NFL, so I don't want to. He's bringing Garcon and Goodwin down with him. He's even bringing Kittle down, and Kittle was his boy in college. Man, that's terrible. Yeah. So I don't want to be part of it, man. I mean, I'm out. And Hyde's going to have a tough time running against this defense, so I don't want any part of San Francisco.
Big T, those were some short-lived windmills, my man. You only had a few weeks to live the dream here. But, Derek, 39 total in this one, so I'm with Chop. There's just not a lot here. I don't even know that I can go with Adrian Peterson. I like the matchup, obviously, against the 49ers. But quick thoughts on this one, and we'll move on to some better games here coming up.
Yeah, I think AP is the guy on Arizona's side. If they can build a lead, this could be a spot where he gets, 20-plus touches. And he did see 4 targets in the last game, which is kind of promising. He's not really a guy that usually catches the ball at the backfield. Fitzgerald has just torched the Niners throughout his career, but, that's usually with Carson Palmer or, at least a decent quarterback throwing him the ball. So I don't think I can pull the trigger there. I don't mind Marquise Goodwin. If we see Patrick Peterson shadow Pierre Garcon, Beathard or Garoppolo, they got to throw to somebody. I know the O-line's pretty terrible, but Marquise Goodwin let a lot of people down last week. His ownership's going to come down. $3,800 for a guy that could take it to the house at any time. I have some interest in.
All right, we got 4 games left, a couple afternoon games left. We got Washington traveling to Seattle. I talked about it earlier, that Seattle-Houston game was fun to watch, and Russell Wilson got it done in that game, guys. Almost 500 yards passing. Does it continue to be the Russell Wilson show here? Did pick up a lineman in a trade. You got Dwayne Brown from Houston coming over again. We don't know how soon these guys will be ready. Obviously, an upgrade to that line is going to help. And then on the Washington side, Derek, they looked awful last week. Was it the weather? Seattle's defense gave up a lot to Houston last week. Does Washington put some points on the board, or is this a one-sided affair?
Yeah, so Dwayne Brown, he was already in Seattle for that game last week, so hopefully, he just didn't get on the team playing. Can be practicing with the Seahawks today. We'll see. Love their offense once again. They can't run the ball, so it's going to be the Russell Wilson show. A lot of people are going to go right back to Richardson. I think the play is to either go to Baldwin or Lockett. Those are my 2 favorites here. Jimmy Graham finally looked pretty good last week after, I think he had 0 catches in the first half, but ended up having a big second half. 5K is a little much for me. I think you just pay all the way up to Ertz if you're going to pay up for a tight end. But I love Wilson, love pairing him up with Baldwin or Lockett. For the Redskins, with Jordan Reed out, I think Vernon Davis is at least interesting. They're saying that they're looking for another receiver to add to this mix before the trade deadline, which isn't going to help anything. As far as the receivers go, Jamison Crowder coming off of that career game. The best way to beat the Seahawks through the air is in the middle of the field, so Crowder's probably my favorite play there. And I'm not giving up on Doxson just yet. He did see most of the snaps, but I'm not playing him here.
Nothing like the 1-1-1 stat line for Josh Doxson. So found the end zone, but
I was ecstatic with that.
Oh yeah, them 6 points. You're waiting on something to happen. So Rarely do you see that line, but interesting nonetheless. So, Chop, Redskins, Seahawks. What do you got in this one?
For the Seahawks, I would go right back to Russell Wilson at home and pair him with whomever you want to. Any of these guys could. I mean, I would probably scratch Paul Richardson off the list because he just had his big game, but any of the other guys would be fine. And for Washington, as much as I want to play some of these guys at receiver, and I think they could get it done, I'm going to have to wait and hold out and see the health of that offensive line, because if it's in shambles like it was against Dallas, then I will play heavy doses of the Seattle defense against them. They're missing too many guys. If none of those guys come back healthy this week, then it's too bad of an offensive line to get anything done in the passing game or the running game against Seattle on the road.
Yeah, there's a lot of defenses in play. You know, Derek mentioned Philly earlier. They're like 7th in pricing. Seattle's 5th in pricing this week. So, I mean, we didn't talk about the Texans. They're pretty much a given against Indy. So a lot of ways that you can go defensively, but you can do it on the cheap with a Seattle, with a Philly, and save. So interesting there. Kansas City and Dallas, Chop. So Zeke, we're still up in the air. I think there's one more hurdle for him to go. We'll see. It doesn't sound very good. Let's pretend he's out here. What do we see from Dallas? Is it McFadden? Is it Morris? Is it neither? Is it the Dak Prescott show? And then Kansas City, do we see Kareem Hunt get back on track here? It's kind of been bottled up this last week in that game against Denver. Does he get it going against the Cowboys?
Okay, so as of the time that we're doing this show on Tuesday, the word that comes out now is that suspended Cowboys running back Ezekiel Elliott is seeking an emergency injunction on his legal case for his 6-game ban. So right now he's seeking an emergency injunction. Man, Ezekiel, please just get this thing over with. You'll be back by week 15, man. You'll be back. Now, not only is that great for our season-long fantasy, which is probably the least of anybody's real troubles or worries, but you'll be back by week 15. You'll be back for the playoff stretch for the Cowboys. You'll be back for the playoffs. They will survive without you. The Cowboys will still make the playoffs. Just get it over with, man. Be done with it. He's going to take it all the way down to where he gets a 6-game suspension starting in week 13, and he's going to miss everything, So it's unfortunate. As of right now, we don't know what his status is. If he's out, I'd fire up Morris. If he's in, I think he's a great play. But if he's out, then Morris, I think, is what I would think of as the number one running back there going forward. And I would still have a lot of Dak Prescott and Des Bryant this week because I think they would lean a little bit more on Dak anyway. For Kansas City, I mean, this is a pretty good matchup here. Dallas has a good pass rush, but that doesn't bother Kansas City. They have a lot of ways to beat that, including Kareem Hunt and Travis Kelce again. And I guess the guy I would gravitate to in tournaments a lot is Tyreek Hill this week. He is a speedster who could very well burn this defense for a couple of long touchdowns. So there's a lot. I think everybody's in play for Kansas City.
Yeah, this is the highest total on the board, 51.5 as of right now. We had 50 in New Orleans. We had a 49.5 with Houston, but this one and a close spread. Chiefs favored by 1 here going into Dallas, which was kind of surprising. I know they've been good, but Cowboys playing some good football right now. So, Derek, answer the same questions. Is it Morris? Is it McFadden if you have to choose one? If Zeke is out, Chop, I agree with you. Just get this shit over with. Let's move on. I am a season-long owner of Zeke in a lot of leagues, so I wish we'd get it done with, but McFadden or Morris, and then just a lot here, Derek. So maybe your favorite plays, some guys that maybe you're avoiding in this one.
Yeah, I still don't understand this whole appeals process. I mean, I don't get it at all. But if he's out,
it's making Deflategate look like a joke.
Yeah.
I mean, this thing is dragging on more than anything I've seen in a long time.
So if he gets his injunction, the NFL files something else. I don't really get it. But Alfred Morris sounds like he's going to be the guy if Zeke's unable to go. He's been the one that's active, and they sound like they're prepping him to be the starter. So I like him at 5,500, but I do expect the Cowboys to air it out a little bit more without Zeke. And if that's the case, I mean, this game has blow-up potential. I love Des Bryant at 6,400. He's probably going to be the most popular play on the board when it comes to wide receivers. I don't see how you don't target him here, if Zeke's out anyway. And I love Dak. I think more of the offense is going to be on his shoulders, and 6,700 is more than reasonable for him. On the other side of the ball, love Kareem Hunt. Cowboys 31st against the run, 30th in DVOA against the pass when it comes to running backs. So Hunt's going to be involved. He had 22 rushes last week, 5 targets. He's going to see, just 20-plus touches in a great matchup. Alex Smith, don't really like paying that much for him, but I do like Travis Kelce. Cowboys are one of the worst teams at defending tight ends. And then Tyreek Hill. I didn't watch the game Monday night, but he threw a pick, I guess.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
It might have been I coach 8-year-old flag football, and some of my kids could have thrown a better pass than Tyreek Hill threw. That thing was ugly, man, and he just threw it right to the guy, and it was a wobbling duck. So, yeah, I don't know where that play came from, but they're going to scrap that one, I guarantee it.
Yeah, he's always interesting in tournaments. He's going to have another big game or two the rest of the year, and everyone's going to flock to him the next week. But you want to be on him the week that he does go off, not the week after.
All right, let's get to Sunday night football. We got Raiders traveling to Miami. So if you're on the main slate on DraftKings, you're not going to get this game. FanDuel, you'll get it. But if you're playing the whole week slate, the Thursday to Monday, you'll get some action here. So, Derek, we got the Raiders coming in. Miami, I don't know what they're doing. You trade Jay Ajayi, who I know some of it is locker room, but you barely get any return here. I think the question is we could have some value here now. He leaves town. Kenyon Drake's $4,000, Damian Williams $3,700. Do you prefer one or the other? Is it none of the above here? Do you see a split committee? Any interest in this cheap Miami backfield now with Jay Ajayi now in Philadelphia?
I think it's going to end up being a split. Damian Williams has been getting more work so far this season, but it sounds like they want Drake to be the guy moving forward. So I think it'll be a split this week, but I'll have exposure to both of them, I think, in tournaments. In cash games, I think we can probably look elsewhere, but Drake at 4,000 is at least somewhat interesting. It sounds like Devontae Parker is going to be back. That's going to be big. Dolphins are apparently shopping Jarvis Landry, so keep an eye on that one. I actually like Parker over Landry in this spot. As far as the Raiders side, Marshawn Lynch missed practice on Tuesday. They expected him to be there, so I don't really know what's going on with that. If he's out or if they don't start him or something, DeAndre Washington would be interesting once again. And then I still don't know what to do with Cooper and Crabtree. It seems like these two just trade off having big weeks. This is a great spot against the Dolphins secondary, one of the worst against receivers this year. So yeah, I don't have a preference either way right now, but I think both are in good spots.
Yeah, Cooper Crabtree is frustrating. As soon as you think it's one guy, it's the other guy. So chop hit on that situation, and then those Miami running backs. Any interest in a Drake or a Williams in this one?
Oakland. Yeesh. If Lynch missed this game for some reason, because obviously there's something going on there, I would probably turn back to DeAndre Washington. I think he's the better of the two running backs, and generally speaking, and it's not just because he had the bigger game last week. I just think he's the better of the two running backs. So if Lynch missed, I think it'd be a possibility to go back to DeAndre, and his price didn't rise very much. He's still only 4.2. As far as Cooper Crabtree, yeah, man, that's a rough one. But I think I'd pull and this is totally like pulling a name out of a hat, almost like the Dan Bot Kicker Challenge. He pulls the names out of a hat. I would pick Cooper this week. Cooper was really bad last week, and Crabtree got a little work. They do usually alternate a little bit just to keep them happy. So I guess I would take Cooper, but obviously I think they would both be in play. Miami's a dumpster fire, man. So on offense, I don't want any part of any of them. The running game not good now, and Devontae Parker wasn't, even when he was healthy. Like, he had some premier matchups there for a while, and we kept playing him, and he was bad. So I don't know if I could turn to him now. And apparently, I would get the feeling this team's really kind of in disarray and not really playing very hard, and that's why the guy's shipping people out of town. So who's playing hard, who's not playing hard, we don't really know. We know Ajayi wasn't really playing hard because he got run out. So is it Devontae Parker, another guy that he doesn't feel is playing up to his full potential? I don't know. So maybe I don't know what to do. I probably would fade this whole offense.
Yeah, it's tough. And that Dolphins defense, Nate Allen's now on injured reserve. So I think it's the Oakland passing game is what I'm looking at here. Probably avoiding this Miami run game. It's great value, but without any clarity. And I haven't seen much from either guy, in their limited opportunities. Drake was good at Alabama, but we haven't seen much out of him here with Miami. And Williams, to me, just a guy. So I think there's better value. out there. All right, let's get to the Monday night game. A game, boys, that I will be in attendance, making the trip up to Lambeau to check out Lions-Packers. So, very low total here. I mean, 43. When's the last time we can say a Packer game had a 43 total at home? But that's the Brett Hundley experience. So, Chop, does this guy bounce back? I think we don't want to give up on him too soon. Is that me as a Packer fan? What are you seeing as an unbiased observer here? Do you have any chance to do any damage here against this Lions team? And how does Detroit go into Lambeau and win? Vegas has them 2.5-point favorites. Is it that simple? Detroit's the better team, or is it going to be a battle here in Lambeau?
I think that Hundley probably going to bounce back for a much better game than he had last time. I don't know how good, but like that, I'm sure that bye week helped to iron some things out. You know, he got thrown into the fire there pretty quickly, so I think he'll be all right this week. It's a pretty decent matchup, and because of that, I think somebody's going to step up. My guess would be Jordy Nelson. I mean, look at that price on Jordy Nelson on DraftKings. When was the last time Jordy Nelson was 5.8? That's
never.
Really,
probably never.
Probably. That's really tempting. So he's going to lock on to somebody, and my guess would be Jordy Nelson. So I definitely wouldn't mind pulling the trigger on that. I actually think Aaron Jones / Ty Montgomery, whoever gets the big carries this week, is going to struggle against the Detroit run defense that got healthy over their bye week, and it showed against Le'Veon Bell. They were pursuing the ball pretty well. So I don't think, as good as Green Bay is with that offensive line, I'm not so sure that they have their way with Detroit's run defense. I think it's going to fall on the shoulders of Hundley quite a bit, so I like the passing game here. For Detroit, this is going to be a game I think they're going to have to pass. So Marvin Jones has looked exceptional in the last few weeks. As long as Golden Tate is still banged up, and I don't see how he's miraculously going to heal that shoulder over 1 week's period of time. I think that's a multi-week injury. As long as Golden Tate is limited, Marvin's going to keep getting fed, and so I think Marvin Jones, who had a huge game in Green Bay, what was it, this time last year?
Oh, yeah, early last season, 200 yards.
Marvin Jones is a guy you keep going to as long as he's getting fed those targets, and I think Stafford's going to have to pass in this game. And so it's a Marvin Jones game for me.
Yeah, 25 targets over the last 2 games. You mentioned Golden Tate. One more name for you, TJ Jones. Got 8 targets in that game against Pittsburgh, 17 targets over the last 2 games. So made some tough catches. Stafford trusts him, and we know about Green Bay. This is not a good secondary. So these Lions pass catchers definitely in play. All right, Derek, wrap it up for us here. Lions, Packers, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm on Marvin Jones' train as well. One guy won't be playing Eric Ebron. Done with that
they
guy.
can't give that dude away. It's like trick or treat here, trying to trade this guy. And everyone's like, no, he's like the popcorn ball when you show up. Like, no, I'm good on that. So I don't know what they're doing with Ebron.
Yeah, he's a toothbrush and no kid wants. Anyway, yeah.
Pennies. That used to be the worst when you'd get pennies. Come on, man.
Yeah, I think Stafford's okay. I usually like him at home a little bit more. This dink and dunk offense, I mean, I know it's a great matchup against the Packers, but yeah, I like him at home a little bit more. So it's pretty much just Marvin Jones for me on this side of the ball. For the Packers, I actually like Hundley more this week than I did before he faced the Saints. I think everyone else was too quick to hop on him. But we know he can run the ball. If they get out to a deficit, they're going to be forced to air it out. We know the Lions have a good run defense. So I think, coming off the bye, an extra week to prepare, I kind of like him quite a bit at 5,100. The problem is he's not available in the main slate. But if you're playing this 2-game primetime slate, I definitely think you can look at Hundley. I like Jordy Nelson and Devontae Adams. If we think the Packers are going to air it out, then those two are going to be the two that are going to benefit the most. Adams has more targets with Hundley under center than Nelson, but they're both definitely viable. I think Ty Montgomery could see a few extra snaps this week. This will probably be the healthiest he's been since week 3. So I'd like to see what's going to happen between him and Aaron Jones before targeting another Packers running back.
Yeah, you get a nice discount on Montgomery if you want to go that route. They used him at wide receiver. I find it hard to believe they'll just put him on the bench and not utilize him, even with as well as Aaron Jones has played. Ty Montgomery's still a weapon for this team. So, all right, that'll wrap up the game analysis. Now we'll get into our Faith Hill plays for Week 9. We'll have some bold calls, and we'll wrap it up with some final thoughts and get out of here under an hour. So, Derek, let's start with you. Your Faith Hill play, the guy you're still going to go back to. Maybe he burned you last week, a few weeks ago. Who are you keeping the faith on here in Week 9?
So I have a terrible memory. I think I picked this guy last week, but if not, I'm going back to him this week. Michael Thomas. No, he just hasn't had that blow-up game yet. He hasn't topped over 100 yards this season, but he gets to square off against a really beatable Buccaneers secondary at home. I think it's a great spot for Breeze and the passing game to get going again. So Michael Thomas, my guy.
All right, Chop, who do you got? Who's your Faith Hill play for Week 9?
Tyreek Hill. The Cowboys defense, man, having 3 or 4 offensive linemen missing last week for Washington really covered up that bad defense. This is a bad defense, and I could go down the list of speedy wide receivers who line up on the outside who have crushed Dallas this year. Several 2-touchdown games and some nice yardage games to guys like Marquise Goodwin. Tyreek Hill is better than any of those guys probably, and so while he's inconsistent and may do real poor again, that's just what he does, man, he has a real chance to blow up, and I want to be on that train, but I don't want to miss that this week.
Just don't let the dude throw the ball.
Come on, Andy Reid.
Should be fine.
This ain't the punt, pass, and kick, Andy Reid. Let the man just handle the ball and run with it.
If you guys haven't seen that pass, if you didn't watch the game, you got to go look at it. I mean, it was crazy. One of the worst throws I've seen. But what do you expect? You got wide receivers throwing the ball. Let the dude run the ball. That's what he does. My Faith Hill play, boys, I'm going to the damn game, so I got to have some faith in my boy Brett Hundley. Last time I went to Lambeau, Rodgers got hurt. I had to experience the Seneca Wallace experience, which was not fun. I'm hoping Hundley can get it going. I know it's a tough matchup here, but I'm with you, Derek. I think he's better than he's shown there. A couple weeks to prepare for this game, so I think we get a better Brett Hundley this week. So my Faith Hill play for Week 9. All right, let's get some bold calls here. Chop, you always got some bold stuff up your sleeve. What do you got here for Week 9?
I don't think this is bold. I think this is kind of – I don't find this to be too bold, but I'm going to say Carson Wentz, even against this vaunted Denver pass defense, the no-fly zone, I think he still throws for 4 touchdowns. I think it's embedded in his DNA that he has these kind of games in him all year long. I think 4 touchdowns for Carson Wentz.
I like it. Derek, bold call for Week 9.
I'm going to go Marquise Goodwin, over 100 yards and a touchdown, assuming Pierre Garçon is active, because I think he'll drop Patrick Peterson, and I think his ownership's going to be down after he burned everyone last week. Regardless of who ends up being quarterback for the Niners, hopefully they take some deep shots with Goodwin.
All right, I'm going to go alone. Jameis Winston, top 5 quarterback this week at 2% owned. I think a lot of people are going to be worried about that shoulder. I think he gets it done here in New Orleans, has a big game at very, very low ownership. All right, that'll wrap us up for Week 9 here. Guys, final thoughts here. Anything on Halloween, the trade deadline? One quick note. It looked like the Browns were trying to make a move for A.J. McCarron, went right down to the deadline. Didn't get to pull that off. So Browns continue to be a factory of sadness, we'll say there. I'm a factory of sadness, it sounds like. But, Derek, final thoughts here for Week 9.
Nothing too major. Just good luck this week. Have a safe Halloween. And, good luck, everyone.
Absolutely. Chop, what do you got? Final thoughts. Wrap us up here for Week 9.
If you are an adult and you are not doing it because of the children, or you're not doing it because of you're chasing a girl and you still dress up for Halloween, it's a little bit weird, man. I'm on team no dress up for Halloween. It's a little bit odd, but that's okay. That's my own. The slate looks great, man. I'm amped up about this one. We got some good games this weekend. Should be fun, and I'm ready to sit back tonight and enjoy this Game 6 of the World Series. I'm ready to get this World Series over with because it's killing my blood pressure, man.
Oh, I bet, man. What a game the other night, 13-12. So I'm with you, Chop. I dress up for the sake of the kids. We'll dress up together, but if you're just dressing up, I don't know. There's other holidays to celebrate, other ways to have fun, but I guess do your thing. But definitely agree. Slate looks fun. 10 games on the main slate, so plenty of choices to be made. That'll do it here for Week 9, guys. Good luck this week. For Chop, for Noto, I am Beer. We'll see you right back here next week with the DFS OGs pod, presented by RotoGrinders. We will see you.